Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. Of course, Slam Dance wrapped up just a day or two ago, and probably, I dare say, one of the most important awards that's given out at any of the film festivals is the Audience Choice Award. It's the hardest one to get. You really have to appeal to a very broad range of people, much different than a jury prize. So I always think that that's kind of the best one to get. And I'm so thrilled to have from the movie Copenhagen, which in fact was the winner of the Audience Choice Award. I've got Geffen Anthony here in studio with me, and I'm just so excited to talk about this film. I got to watch it again last night.
Yeah.
And honestly, I could see myself seeing it many times. In fact, there were people that were watching it with me that said, "This is my 5th time." that's really something.
That's a huge compliment. That's amazing.
It really is.
Yeah.
What a great piece of cinematography there you guys have there. Not just that, but the acting to go with it. It is the whole package, isn't it?
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. It was a small but really committed kind of family team who made it. The producers and their partners and a lot of the crew had their other halves help us out, and we were just a small band of brothers and sisters down in Copenhagen where we shot it on location. And because of that commitment and that teamwork, you know, all films are collaboration. So it's nice that people responding to all elements that put it together. The cinematography, the music, the soundtrack on it is incredible.
The story by itself
the story
is spectacular.
Is wonderful. I mean, and that's testament to Mark Rezo, the writer-director's writing, which is why all these great people got involved, because you read a script that you love and you want to make it. And that's exactly why I got involved, because I had a chance to read the script and it just blew me away. The simplicity, the balance of the script, and yeah, we had a wonderful time making it, and it's truly a privilege that people will spend the time to watch it, and if they say they want to watch it again, that's just the greatest compliment for us, so thank you.
Absolutely. Well, it brings an important question to bear, and that is, when you read the script, you obviously knew that you would be playing an American.
Yeah.
Was that a little overwhelming at all for you?
I guess really I saw it as an exciting opportunity. I thought, you know, I love doing voice work back home on radio and different voiceovers and things like that. It's part of, you know, it's part of an actor's skill set, and you get a lot of training in that in theatre, as I did back home. So I saw it as a challenge, and I wanted to do it right. I got the help of a dialect coach, Mary Howland, who taught me back home at Lambda, and she's a fantastic dialect coach, and so we did some solid work on that. But you know, I grew up watching American movies, you know, and American television. So somewhere in the ear there's some kind of, you know, some of those sounds seem very, very familiar. And I'm just pleased and I have to say greatly relieved that people seem to think that it works, that the accent works.
I would never have known. If I didn't know you personally, I would not have known that you weren't an American right out of the gate. So I think it bears taking a look at right now, and then we'll talk about it some more.
Sure.
So we've got the trailer for Copenhagen right here. You know, this just gives you just the tiniest little detail of the relationship between these two characters. But you certainly hear your American accent in there, which is, I don't know. I just have to say, honestly, that's probably the most, I watched the transformation of you, and you've been so kind as actually just do it in front of me a couple of times, which is pretty fun, I have to admit.
Yes.
But seeing you do it on screen and pulling it off so well, because there doesn't seem to be any regionality to it. I mean, you're from anywhere USA, which is pretty awesome.
Well, actually, this is an interesting point, actually, because I started off working on the idea that he was from New York, and but we decided to soften off any kind of New York kind of really. There's a tinge of sometimes, whenever I improv about basketball or insanity, there's or beer or going out with girls, like we have a few scene warm-ups, and their accents seem to get heavier somehow. So, but when it was on script, it was, you know, well prepared, and yeah.
Tell me about Copenhagen as a backdrop for this film. Very obviously, to me, it's a character by itself.
I mean, it's just an incredible city, Copenhagen, and I mean, it's a pleasure to point a camera at it. It's a beautiful place, but not only that, it has an energy to it, a youthfulness, which is what Mark really, when he wrote the script, was responding to. Is there's this really youthful energy there. With young people, kind of tend to be, smart and go out and, I think the reason why he first thought of the script was that he met very young people out in bars, which is perfectly fine over there, and they're not drinking or anything, but it was like he was struck by how the youth there have this kind of freedom, I guess.
Right.
And there's a big music scene there, and but I mean, if you see the movie, the shots will just tell you just how beautiful it is, and that was, I mean, you can tell a story about people, any relationships, and put it in any backdrop, and we were just lucky that we chose Copenhagen because it's stunning.
Well, I suppose, for the folks who didn't get to watch the very first time that we brought Copenhagen on set, we rarely bring a film twice. Just this was that good, and of course an award winner, which all the more appeal. But for those who didn't see it, when we brought Effie, the character, Frederica on set. Give us a little bit of the detail. We know that we know that she's in town for like you said, a youth opportunity where they typically take a job on as an adult.
Yes.
So tell me what that's. Tell me a little bit of the background of the film.
Oh right. Okay. Well, so the idea is that my character Will is an American and he comes to Copenhagen to sort of seek out some family roots. Right. Not necessarily particularly pleasant ones, but he's sort of doing this thing that he's wanted to do. And on the way, he needs a bit of help. He doesn't speak Danish, and he's trying to have fun with his buddy, and his buddy's brought his fiancée along, and that doesn't go well, and he gets kind of like left on his own, and so he has to sort of seek help from a very young waitress, or a young waitress, I guess, and this waitress helps him.
Hapless waitress, I might say.
Yeah, she's good at spilling coffee, and so they sort of have a relationship that's kind of based on kind of, literally she's just trying to help him out because she spilled his coffee and he's being a bit of, he's not being very nice to her. But then they basically strike up an unlikely relationship. And then I guess halfway through the story, their relationship becomes even more unlikely because she's a lot younger than he realized. And if you see the movie, you'll just see just how inappropriate that relationship is. And it's kind of how he's kind of a boy in a man's body. He's not very responsible. The way the movie starts, he's drinking and.
So this was the easiest part for you to play.
Yeah. So that's the bit that I connected to right away. But he has to, for better, I guess, he has to mature into a man and take responsibility for his actions. Specifically, take responsibility for his actions, and I guess that's the story. And it's not really a spoiler because it's there's lots of other elements in there, but. Yeah, that's kind of what. And basically, it's because it's like they have these work experience things. So young people in Denmark try out. It's called praktik. I think that's. I guess they, school kids get to go out and just like work experience. We have the same thing in the UK. You spend a week working, a job you might like to do, or just to get an experience of the workplace.
It brings us to the next most obvious question: is what is next for you?
Right away, I'm going straight back to London to rehearse a Tennessee Williams play, one of his very late short plays as part of a 3-play suite, which we're going to perform in hotel suites because they're all set in hotel rooms. So it's going to be incredibly sort of intense, intimate theatrical performance with people like right here while you're trying to develop a Tennessee Williams relationship, which is, as you know, they tend to be kind of visceral and passionate. So that's going to be doing that back in London.
It's going to be exciting, certainly.
Yeah, so I'm going straight into that.
Wow, that's great. And then, of course, we have yet to determine where we'll be seeing Copenhagen, but we know it'll be back in some form somewhere. I'm quite certain of that.
Yeah.
Of course, Mark Rasso working on some other things too. I've heard he's already got something else in mind that he's already started to work on.
Well, we'll let him do whatever he wants, but I'm trying to get him to focus on the sequel to this film because
a lot of people have asked. That was probably the #1 question last night as we watched it again was, well, gosh, we'd sure like to know what happens to these guys.
I think it's fair to say that that is something. The warmth of reception this week, it means that we're focused on doing that. In a few years' time, we'll let the characters grow up in age a little bit, and then see how they
leave a little mystery to it.
Yeah.
Well, as always, I want to thank you so very much for spending some time with me again. Copenhagen is the film. Gethin Anthony is the actor, and I couldn't say that and mean it more. It's just a tremendous acting job in that film. If you haven't seen it, you need to keep track for your opportunity, Copenhagen. We'll be back with more right here on the Mountain Morning Show after these commercial messages.